The West Virginia Mountaineer defense desperately needed a bounce back performance, and they got it in a get right game in which they allowed 0 points, and the starting defense allowed 0 rushing yards before they left the game, and the second stringers took over. That being said, let's take a look at the top 5 highest graded defensive players according to PFF for the West Virginia Mountaineers in week 3. Let's go. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome into another edition of the Country Roads Webcast. Before I get in this video, I just want to give you a quick reminder, if you would, do us a favor, hit that like button, give us the thumbs up. That'll help this video's performance and help our future videos performances as well. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. And as we continue to try and grow the Country Roads Webcast community throughout Mountaineer Nation, one of the best ways that you can support us and help us be able to do so is to visit our merch store, which is linked in the video description down below. That being said, let's get into it. All right, so as I stated in the opening to the video, West Virginia really needed their defense to have a get right game, have a bounce back performance in a big way, especially I think run defense wise after struggling against Kansas, really struggling in all facets defensively against Kansas, but the run defense specifically, especially you knew Towson may try and do some similar things and attack you in some similar ways with a mobile quarterback. And they did do that, but the West Virginia defense answered the call. Towson scoring their only 7 points on a kickoff return. So the Mountaineer defense allowing 0 points, and the starting defense actually holding Towson to below 0 rush yards. I believe it was negative before when the second stringers came in. So good job by the starters doing what you expect them to do against an FCS squad, and the defense hopefully improving, and we'll continue to see that and see how that bears fruit as we continue to go throughout the season and see how much improvement this defense can have, because that's going to play a key part into how successful the Mountaineers will or will not be in 2022. But that being said, 65-7 win over Towson in the best defensive performance of the season easily so far. So let's take a look at the top 5 highest graded defensive players for the Mountaineers in this one. And we'll start at number 5, and that is cornerback Rashad Ajayi with a 71.4 defensive grade. And this is a guy I feel, I mentioned this in our Towson review and reaction show. He's got a bit of a bad rap this season because the secondary has struggled, and he's been, a guy in there from the beginning. But I thought that he had been serviceable and really held his own at times and been one of the stronger parts of that secondary, especially the corners, save Charles Woods. And since he's been out, since the second quarter of the backyard brawl, whenever that was. And I think that the PFF grade this week really reflects that as well, as you see Rashad Ajayi grading out as the 5th highest graded Mountaineer on defense with a 71.4 grade. And then Lee Koba, linebacker, with a 72.1 grade, coming in as the 4th highest graded defensive player for the Mountaineers in this one. And I think this is a guy who also, in turn, the Mountaineer defense really needed a bounce back game, but in turn, so did he. And Lee Koba gets to have his bounce back game and really looks a lot better in this one. West Virginia made some changes in the linebacking core around him. Maybe that helped him as well. And I think maybe getting a veteran in there starting an Exree Lowe beside him could maybe help him with some of the calls and some of the IDs and things like that. And any questions, he's got a guy right there beside him that can help and ask. So I think, as he gets acclimated to Power 5 football again, having been at Syracuse in the past before going to the junior college route, he's only going to get better as the season progresses. And we see that here as he's the 4th highest graded Mountaineer in week 3 here with a 72.1. 3rd highest graded Mountaineer here, maybe surprise people, but it's another linebacker, and it's one of the Mountaineers' international players, and it's Gyro Fafaris with a 73.9 grade. Getting some extended action, as did some of the younger Mountaineers on both sides of the ball in this one, as the Mountaineers had this one in hand well before halftime even. So getting some guys in, and Gyro was one of those guys that got in and performed well, coming out with a 73.9 defensive grade from PFF, as 3rd highest graded Mountaineer. And talking about bounce back games, this may have been the Mountaineer that needed the biggest bounce back game after he had to get the start against Kansas. And we saw, some struggles there from him, but I'm glad to see him bounce back. And that is Malachi Ruffin, the defensive back, coming out with a 78.6 defensive grade to be the 2nd highest graded Mountaineer in week 3. He's bounced around on the Mountaineer defense, former walk-on, went from corner, then was at safety, then was asked to move back to corner last week, and even started that game against Kansas with, mixed results, more to the negative side, but flips that back around this week, and gets on the field playing some of the, slot corner in the Mountaineers nickel package, and then, of course, still mixing in there at safety at times as well when the Mountaineers had second stringers in and as well, on outside corner at that time. But performed much better than when we saw him last week, and that's good to see. So 78.6 grade from Malachi Ruffin gives him the second highest grade on the Mountaineer defense against Towson. And then the top highest grade of Mountaineer, I mentioned in the Towson review and reaction, this guy's been unheralded this season. And the grades, I think, show that out. Number one highest graded Mountaineer on defense in week 3 is Jordan Jefferson, the big guy there, the nose tackle in the middle for the Mountaineers with the 81.7 defensive grade. And you love to see it. And I mentioned, previously, Kansas, when they were having success running the football, they were, purposely avoiding Jordan Jefferson, running away from him. And that really helped, the way they game planned that and schemed that up. But Jordan Jefferson gets involved this week and bounces back with the strongest performance of any Mountaineer defender, according to PFF, in week 3 with 81.7 defensive grade. And he seemed to be all over the place. TFLs, batted passes, just doing it all. And I think he's really going to be a force, not only this season, but as he continues to progress through his West Virginia career, as he is still a relatively young player for the Mountaineers. We saw him a couple years ago forced in early as a true freshman, but, still has at least, 3 years if he wants it for the Mountaineers. So going to have a great career, and we're only just seeing the beginning of it here as he continues to grow throughout this season and throughout his entire career. And Dante Steele's drawing a lot of attention, is going to open up some things for him. And Sean Martin, in turn, who also made his first career start in this game. But Jordan Jefferson comes out as the highest graded Mountaineer on defense in week 3 with 81.7 grade there as the Mountaineers nose tackle. That being said, really appreciate you guys for tuning into this video. Like I said, hit that thumbs up, give us the like on the way out. That really helps this video's performance and will help us in the future. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. Helps us, helps you, helps get more of this Mountaineer football content out to Mountaineer Nation. Be on the lookout for Season 5, Episode 136 of the CRW podcast, our Virginia Tech preview and predictions episode, releasing on Wednesday. And the audio version, of course, can be found on any podcast platform, and the video version, of course, here on YouTube. Really appreciate everyone that tuned in, and be on the lookout next week as we continue the series with the highest graded players from the Battle for the Black Diamond Trophy, which hopefully will be staying in Morgantown for the foreseeable future as the Mountaineers travel to Blacksburg to defend it in a Thursday night contest this week. But like I said, we'll be here to preview it in the coming future. But in the meantime and in between time, as always, I'm Jordan Cruz. And until next time, let's go Mountaineers.